Welcome to today's daily market recap. In today's episode, I'm going to break down my trades in the morning. I'm going to go over the stocks I chose, why I thought they had potential to go higher, and how today I was able to kind of dodge and avoid some of these false breakouts because today was pretty tricky. So this morning, when I first looked at the scans at around 6:30, the leading percentage gainer was up only 16%. Now, I put a filter of only looking at stocks over 50 cents a share. As it turned out, there were a couple of penny stocks this morning that were gaining some momentum and did have a lot of eyes on them and had millions of shares of volume, but above 50 cents, there was nothing. And this is actually really common that we have these sort of cycles in the market where we'll see really good momentum on the stocks I typically like to trade between, $2 and $8, kind of that range. And then all of a sudden, you'll have a stock like we had yesterday, that Chinese stock that went up over 500%. Actually, I think it peaked at about 1,000%, from 25 cents to about $2.50. Now, although it gave back a lot of those gains, I think it did get traders in the mindset of looking for the next stock at 20 cents, 30 cents that might make a huge move. So as a result, unfortunately for me, there was a lot of attention and volume around these low price names that I just typically don't like to trade. So when I was sitting down close to 7 a.m., there really wasn't anything that looked good. So I said, all right, guys, here's the goal. Patience. Patience is going to be the secret to success today. I am not going to jump on anything that just pops up. I've got to wait and make sure it looks good. So let's jump onto the screen share and start kind of breaking down the market and my trades from today. Now, we've got a couple things that we've got to look at. Of course, the S&P 500 is down right now. We're on a little bit of a pullback. There's no question about it. We've got the 200 moving average on the daily level, which or on the daily chart, which is something that I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on. Support down around the 200. That's typically a spot where we do see support. Obviously, the market, the tough thing about the market is that the overall market is so short-term focused. So geopolitical stuff, the tariffs, things like that, very short-term orientation, like this could affect earnings next month, for this next quarter. Even if some of these things might be good in the long run, and you could argue either way, but even if some of them might be good in the long run, the market doesn't care about the long run. The market cares about this quarter, next quarter. And that's that short-term focus that's so detrimental because it forces companies to, in a lot of ways, act kind of against their own interests by focusing on such short-term initiatives that they're really ignoring and robbing themselves the potential in the future to become better because that requires investment today. So I'm going to get on a little tangent. I'll try to get back on topic here. But the overall market is pulling back right now. I'm not surprised. And it's really a question of, do some of these changes in the long run help U.S. companies, which are listed on the U.S. market? And of course, we do have multinational companies as well. But is it going to be for the best in the long term, even if there's some short-term pain? And we don't know. The Federal Reserve told us in 2023 and 2022, when they jacked up interest rates, that there would be short-term pain. But this was for the purpose of a long-term goal of controlling inflation. And it would hurt and people would lose their jobs. But, this is what they needed to do. So, this is something that we have seen before. And I don't think that this is to that extent, but, of course, we'll see what happens. So that's a little bit of a headwind in the overall market. And that does weigh and sort of trickle down on small caps to a certain extent. But of course, small caps also live a little bit in their own world. When you have a stock that's got a really great catalyst, it can buck the trend of the overall market pretty easily. And we do see that quite often. So the first thing I was looking at this morning was actually Acon. This is one that I traded yesterday and I did pretty well on. And funny enough, it held up pretty well yesterday. So I looked at it after hours at like 5 o'clock and I was like, boy, all right, we got a trade on it yesterday morning. It sells off, pops up, sells off, and then all of a sudden rips back up and goes to new high in the afternoon and is kind of hanging out here around 7. So I was like, oh, this looks pretty interesting. Well, it ended up dropping just before the 8 p.m. closing, after hours closing bell. And then at 4 a.m., it sells off a little bit more. So by the time we were sitting down at 7, what time? This was 7 a.m. right here. And I saw it popping up and I just thought, no, it's going to have too much upside resistance. I'm not going to be able to trust it. And it has no catalyst. It has no volume. So there's no trade on it. So there was no trade on Acon coming into 7 a.m. So I was fine. All right, well, that's fine. So 7 a.m., just sitting, being patient, I saw THAR hit the scanner. THAR popped up at 7 a.m. and immediately reversed. So it pops up, it reverses. There was no setup. There was high volume selling. There was no trade on it. WLGS, this one popped up again, popped up a couple weeks ago, popped up again today. Pops up, drops, there was no setup on that, didn't trade it. VERB, this one popped up and dropped. No setup, didn't trade it. Let's see, I don't think this is the ticker. Was it? No, it wasn't that. There was another ticker that there were a few others that did sort of similar thing where they popped up and reversed. So 7 a.m., no trades. 7:30, no trades. And I'm thinking, look, I have no problem not taking a single trade today. Doesn't matter. If there's no good setup, I don't want to take a trade. I don't need to just press the keys just for the sake of pressing the keys. The excitement of, taking trades is kind of, that maybe happens early in your career. You're so excited to be sitting here and just take some trades. But once you've been doing this for a while, it's like, I really only wanted to take trades if I'm going to make money. And you kind of recognize today's just not the day where I really feel like I have the odds on my side. So I was sitting patiently, and then 8 a.m., we have a couple stocks with news, and I'm just sort of sitting and waiting to see if any of them hold up. So WINT was the first one that ended up trading. I'm going to close the penny gainers scan. I'll get zoomed in here. So as you can see, this stock went from $3 to $5.50 and is now right on the day at $2.17. The headline was allowance from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for acute heart failure. So honestly, I was like, usually patent headlines are not the strongest. I'm not sure this is going to work. So initially it pops up right here. And we're just going to get zoomed in on this little window right here. Because in the moment, this is all we needed to know. What we knew in the moment was, okay, the stock did just have a headline, and right now it's popping up. It pops up to 380. It goes up to 429 right here. Let me just get this chart zoomed in. So let's do a pop quiz. All right. So right now we have a stock with breaking news. The news has come out. The stock is squeezing up. It's popped up to a high of 460. It's pulling back right here. What do? Do I jump in here for the first candle to make a new high? What's the volume telling me? The volume is saying strong buying volume, light selling volume. So I'm going to be a buyer right in here for first candle to make a new high, and watch this. Boom. We get a squeeze back to 460 all the way up to 540. That right there from 425 up to 550, that's a fantastic trade. It pulls back again right in here and then starts to dip back down. So being a successful trader is all about precision. Knowing the places to pull that trigger, jump in, and then knowing your exit indicators to jump back out. So on this, what was my entry indicator? The second that first candle made a new high right there, I was jumping in. Now, I did get a little slippage on that order because the volume was kind of light, but I jumped in there and I added for the break through the high. We got that nice squeeze up to 540. So a full break of 5 all the way to 540. It dips back down to 5. Pops back up to 540, kind of dips back down, pops back up. And these topping tails here, this is where I started to feel like, okay, we're running into a little bit of resistance up here. And realistically, I'm just not sure this headline is that strong. So it ends up pulling back. Then we get this rejection right here. That rejection on the 1 minute is where the first 1 minute candle kind of tried to make a new high and it just wasn't able to do it. So right in here. So now at this point, we have green volume on our first candle and then selling. This is the candle that needed to break and it couldn't, and then it just goes lower. So WINT, I traded it. I made some good money on it, 10,000 shares. That was my entry. That was my first position, added for the break of 5, and boom, got $10,000 of profit on it. So not bad. I'm pleased with that. It's green. Now I'm disappointed that this didn't hold up. I'm not shocked, but I am disappointed. It would have been nice if it held up better. So it pulls back here, comes back up to VWAP, and I'm thinking, are we going to break VWAP? No, we come back down, we sell off, we go lower. So we pull back, and now we're back at 350. All right, so this was WINT. It's unfortunate, but not shocking. And nonetheless, there was some room for profit. There was some volatility here, and there was profit to the long side, and there was some profit to the short side, depending on how you want to trade it. Now, you got to be careful shorting these types of stocks. With a very low float, they start to squeeze, they can move fast, and then you're in circuit breaker halts. So you got to be careful. Recent reverse split, right? But anyway, so that was the trade on WINT. So that was at about 8:06, 8:07 a.m. All right. So then after that, I'm sitting tight. 8:30, waiting for news, nothing. 9 a.m., waiting for news, not seeing anything. And then all of a sudden, RDGT hits my scanner. RDGT hits the scanner and starts popping up. So I see it, and initially I'm like, okay, what's the catalyst? I see that it's a Chinese company, and I don't see any news. So immediately I'm like, I probably can't trust that, right? That's the reality. It's Chinese, it's got no news, it's hard to trust. So it ends up popping from 250 up to 3, up to 350, pulls back, pops up to 4 right here, up to 425 right here. So at this point, I'm like, my gosh, I'm missing this whole move. So I started to get a little bit of FOMO. But besides that, the fact is there was a nice pullback here, which I watched, and I did not trade. It goes higher, it pulls back, it pops up, it pulls back. I got in right here for the break through this high right here of 450. So I bought for the break of 450, and we got to squeeze up to 550. So I took my starter on that with, let's see, it was 2, 4. Let me just scroll this up. So I think it was 10,000 shares again on that, but I did 2,000 share blocks, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, actually 12,000 shares, adding between 459 and 491. So 12,000 shares, adding as it was squeezing up. Then here's the thing that was interesting on this one. So I got my first trade right here, adding as it was squeezing up and taking profit up towards 550. It drops down, it pulls back, it goes sideways. And I'm thinking, all right, well, we kind of have a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern here, right? Sort of stair-stepping back down. I don't know if we're going to get any more. But then right in here, it starts to kind of perk up. See how it's kind of ascending back up? Kind of just starting to creep back higher. So I took a couple trades here on this. I took one trade in this area to try to time the break through 450. It wasn't able to break 450. I jumped in, I jumped back out. It pulls back again, comes back up again. I took another attempt at it. We break 450 and we get a squeeze up to $5. Not bad. Now I was hoping that it would break through 5, but that trade right there from 450 up to 5, that's 50 cents a share. That's not a bad trade. And here's the thing, higher volume at this point in the move because now more traders are watching it. It had its kind of first pop, it pulled back, and then it comes up for that second move in the break of VWAP. So the first trade for me was right here. Yeah, it was a little high, but I made some money on it. I think it was like $6,000, $5,000. No, actually I'm sorry. I made 6,000 and then I gave back 1,500 of it. So I was up 4,500 right on that trade. And then here on this attempt right here, and then this trade here, I made another approximately 4,500. So I'm up about $9,600 on RDGT. Not bad. So 21,000 on the day. 4 times my daily goal is 5,000, cold market daily goal. $20,000 is the hot market daily goal. So I'm sitting at over $20,000, and this really wasn't a hot market. It just so happened that I was patient. I waited for stocks that were moving quickly, and then I was confident enough to take big enough share size that I was able to make some decent money. So this is where we sit right now. RDGT has pulled back a little bit. And I said coming into 930, well, kind of for me, hands off. So my last trade was around 925, and then RDGT sold off at the open. Yeah, it bounced back up, pulled back. It's kind of coming back up a little bit now, but sold off at the open. So I was like, no, I'm not going to trade that. Obviously, WINT had pulled back quite a bit. So I was like, that one's off the list. MASS, this one, 25 million share float, had merger news, but I just said, I'm not going to mess with this. I just think it's too risky. So I left that one alone. A couple other Chinese stocks on the scans and a couple other just low float stocks. But the problem now is if you start trading at 930, now it's like, you're trading either continuation from a move that started earlier in the morning with breaking news, of which we don't have much continuation today because none of these are super, super strong. Or you're either hoping for fresh news or a stock that just kind of, randomly gains some traction after the opening bell. And that's not as likely on a day when the overall market is selling off. We've got this little bit of a headwind here. So, at this point, I'm thinking the overall market could pull back down towards the 200 moving average. That wouldn't surprise me. So, this is the thing with the market being extended overall. I mean, the market's been very bullish. It's very strong. So we get these periodic pullbacks, right? Drop back down, pop back up, drop back down, coming back up. So back down, back up. But when it's extended, it always feels like there's a bit more downside potential than upside because it just sort of keeps grinding a little higher, but no one's like going crazy. And then you get some fear and you get that big kind of drop. So that's what we're dealing with right now. There's some fear. People are like, oh, the market's been so strong and now, things are getting shaken up. So fear. And so that's creating a little bit of that overall market resistance. So we'll see how the market trades the rest of today. We'll see how much it pulls back today and what that means for tomorrow. But as far as I'm concerned, my game plan is the same. I'm going to sit down tomorrow morning around 7 a.m. I'm going to be watching the scanners, looking for momentum. I'll be checking the S&P 500 to see what's the condition of the overall market. Do we have a headwind? Do we have a tailwind? And I'll take that into consideration. Obviously, if we're dealing with, a once in a year type of event where the market is pulled back a ton and, it's like, all right, I'm going to have to just batten down the hatches a little bit, then that's fine. I've done that before as well. So I obviously take it day by day and adjust to what's, right in front of me. But today, although I thought there was a possibility that there wouldn't be a lot to trade, I didn't seriously think it would be a no trade day. I knew that there's been enough momentum in the market that once something started to move, traders would most likely jump on it. And that was the case. So today, success was the result of being patient, being picky, and waiting for stocks to confirm kind of before jumping in. So not jumping in quite as quickly, waiting for it to start to pull away, and then getting in for that next leg higher. And although that meant maybe I made a little bit less than on a day where I'm jumping faster, I think that was the right move today. Because if I jumped quickly on some of these other stocks, I would have incurred some unnecessary losses. All right, so with that, those of you guys tuning in, if you want to check out the 2-week trial at Warrior Trading, 2 weeks for $20, link is pinned to the top comments and in the description. And later today, I'm going to be uploading a episode where I'm going to be ranking the fastest brokers for day trading. I have funded accounts, I have timed the trades, and I'm going to be revealing my ranking. We'll be comparing 10 accounts that I funded, and I'm looking at the top 17 brokers for day trading. So make sure you stay tuned for that episode coming later today. All right, so with that, I will see you guys first thing tomorrow morning. Reminder as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so please manage your risk, take it slow, and I'll see you in the morning.